My name is Rachel, and what happened to me 3 years ago still makes me check over my shoulder every time I go outside after dark. I used to love evening jogs. There was something peaceful about running through my neighborhood just as the sun was setting. The cool breeze, the empty streets, the sound of my own breathing keeping me company. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember because the leaves had just started turning, and there was this crisp smell in the air that made me feel alive. I'd gotten off work late, around 7 p.m., and decided to squeeze in a quick 3-mile run before dinner. My usual route took me through a residential area, then along a bike path that cut through a small wooded section before looping back home. I'd done this run hundreds of times. I knew every crack in the sidewalk, every streetlight, every house along the way. I was about a mile in, just entering the wooded section, when I first noticed them. Footsteps. At first, I didn't think much of it. Other people used this path, but as I continued running, I realized something strange. The footsteps were matching my pace exactly. When I sped up, they sped up. When I slowed down to adjust my shoelace, they slowed down too. I turned around, my heart already starting to pound harder than it should from just running. Nothing. The path behind me was empty, but I could still hear them, clear as day. The rhythmic thud of shoes hitting pavement, perfectly in sync with mine. I told myself it was an echo. The trees, the way sound travels, it had to be an echo. But that didn't make sense. I'd run this path so many times before and never heard anything like this. I picked up my pace, my jog turning into a full sprint. The footsteps behind me did the same, never falling behind, never getting closer. Just there, matching me step for step. The wooded section of the path was only about half a mile long, but it felt like it stretched on forever. The streetlights were fewer here, and the trees created long shadows that seemed to move in my peripheral vision. That's when I heard it, a whisper. Not loud, not close, but clear enough that I knew it wasn't my imagination. Rachel. My blood went cold. How did it know my name? I stopped running, just froze in the middle of the path, my chest heaving, every muscle in my body screaming at me to move. The footsteps stopped too. I slowly turned around, and that's when I saw it. Not a person, but a shadow. Tall, impossibly tall, standing at least 20 feet back on the path. It had no features, no face, just a dark silhouette that seemed to absorb the light around it. And it was staring at me. I don't know how I knew that without seeing eyes, but I felt it, that weight of being watched. Rachel. It whispered again, and this time the voice came from right behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. But when I looked back, the shadow had moved closer, now only 10 feet away. I didn't think. I just ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my entire life. My legs burned, my lungs screamed, but I didn't stop. I could hear behind me, not footsteps anymore, but something worse. A sound like wind rushing through a tunnel, getting louder, getting closer. The edge of the wooded path felt like it would never come, but finally, I burst out onto the lit residential streets. I didn't stop running until I reached my apartment building, practically threw myself inside, and locked every single lock on my door. I called the police. They searched the path that night with flashlights and dogs. They found nothing, no footprints except mine. No evidence anyone else had been there. But here's the thing that still haunts me. When I got home that night and checked my running app, the one that tracks my route and pace, it showed 2 runners on the path. 2 separate GPS signals moving at exactly the same speed, taking exactly the same route. The second signal started the moment I entered the wooded section, and it ended right outside my apartment building. I don't jog anymore. Not at night. Not alone. And I deleted that app. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear them. Those footsteps that match mine perfectly. My name is Tyler, and I need to tell you about the morning walk that made me question everything I thought I knew about reality. I'm an early riser, always have been. There's something about the world at 5 a.m. that feels untouched. Before the traffic, before the chaos, when it's just you and the quiet. Every morning, I'd walk the same route through my neighborhood. 2 miles, clockwork, rain or shine. Past the elementary school, around the park, down Maple Street, and back home. This particular morning was in late March. Still dark outside, but that pre-dawn kind of dark where you can see the sky starting to lighten at the edges. The streetlights were still on, casting those orange pools of light every 30 feet or so. I was about halfway through my walk, passing by the park, when I saw her. A woman, standing perfectly still under a streetlight about 50 yards ahead. She was wearing a long white nightgown, her dark hair hanging loose around her shoulders. She faced away from me, looking toward the empty playground. At first, I thought maybe she was another early riser, or someone who couldn't sleep. But something about the way she stood, so completely motionless, made my steps slow. As I got closer, she turned her head slightly, as if she heard me coming. But she didn't turn around, didn't move, just stood there. I considered crossing the street, but that felt silly. It was just a person. So I kept walking, keeping my eyes forward, trying not to stare. When I was maybe 10 feet away from passing her, she spoke. "Do you see me?" Her voice was flat, emotionless. I stopped walking, unsure if she was talking to me or herself. "Excuse me," I said. She turned then, fully facing me, and I felt my stomach drop. Her face was wrong, not deformed or monstrous, but wrong in a way I can't properly describe. Her features were too symmetrical, too perfect, like a computer-generated image of a human face. Her eyes didn't blink. They just stared, dark and empty. "Do you see me?" she repeated, tilting her head at an unnatural angle. Yes, I see you," I said, taking a step back. "Good," she said and smiled, but it was all wrong. Too wide, showing too many teeth. "Most people don't see me anymore, but you do. That means you're special." Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I felt frozen, pinned in place by those unblinking eyes. "I need you to do something for me," she continued, taking a step closer. Her movements were jerky, like a puppet on strings. "I need you to remember that I was here, that I'm real. Can you do that?" I nodded, unable to speak. "Say it," she demanded, her voice suddenly harsh, angry. "Say you'll remember me." "I'll remember." I managed to choke out. She smiled again, that horrible too wide smile, and then she did something that still makes my skin crawl. She started walking backward, away from me, without turning around. Her body moved in reverse, but her face stayed locked on mine, her head rotating slowly as her body retreated. Within seconds, she'd backed herself into the shadows beyond the streetlight, and then she was gone, just vanished into the darkness. I stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably only a minute, my heart hammering in my chest, trying to convince myself it had been real. I finished my walk, practically ran the rest of the way home, actually. I kept looking over my shoulder, terrified she'd be standing there again, but I didn't see her. When I got home, I Googled everything I could think of. Missing women in the area, deaths near the park, local legends, anything that might explain what I'd seen. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here's where it gets worse. That afternoon, I drove back past the park in daylight. I wanted to see it in the sun, to prove to myself there was nothing strange about it. That's when I noticed something I'd never seen before. At the edge of the park, right where the woman had been standing, there was a memorial bench. I walked over to read the plaque. In memory of Elizabeth Hartwell, 1982 to 2018. She loved her morning walks. Below the inscription was a photograph of a woman with dark hair and a kind smile, the same face I'd seen that morning. I looked up the name. Elizabeth Hartwell had died 6 years ago, hit by a drunk driver during her morning walk, right there in front of the park at 5 a.m. I still walk in the mornings, but I cross the street when I pass that park now, And sometimes, just sometimes, I see her standing there again under that streetlight. She's always waiting, always asking the same question. Do you see me? My name is Jennifer, and I want to tell you about the hiking trail that shouldn't exist, and the day I got trapped in it. I moved to Colorado 2 years ago for work, and one of the main reasons was the hiking. I love being outdoors, pushing myself on difficult trails, reaching those mountain peaks where you can see for miles. Last September, I decided to try a new trail I'd found on a hiking app, Devil's Bend Trail. It was listed as moderate difficulty, 6 miles round trip with minimal traffic, perfect for solo Sunday hike. The trailhead was about 40 minutes from my apartment, deep in the national forest. When I arrived at 9 a.m., there were only 2 other cars in the lot. Good. I preferred hiking alone at my own pace. The trail started out beautiful. Dense pine forest, a bubbling creek running alongside the path, birds singing. The air smelled like earth and pine needles. It was exactly what I needed after a stressful week at work. The first mile was easy, mostly flat with a few gentle inclines. I passed one couple coming back down. They smiled and said good morning. Normal. Everything was normal. Around the 2-mile mark, the trail started to climb more steeply. The trees grew thicker here, blocking out more sunlight. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the forest became quieter. No birds, no wind, just the sound of my breathing and my boots on the dirt path. That's when I saw the first marker, a tall wooden post with a red X painted on it. I'd seen trail markers before, but never like this. It looked old, the wood weathered and cracked, the paint faded but still visible. I took a photo of it, thinking it was odd, and kept hiking. 10 minutes later, I saw another red X marker, then another. They appeared every few hundred feet, always on the right side of the trail, always watching like silent sentinels. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. I checked my GPS. I was still on the trail, making good progress. I should reach the summit viewpoint in another mile. But then I saw something that made my blood run cold. 29:30. 32:00 realization, fear creeping in. I saw myself. Let me explain. I rounded a bend in the trail and saw a woman about 30 yards ahead, wearing the exact same jacket as me. Bright yellow. Same backpack. Same ponytail. I stopped walking, confused. Was this someone wearing the same gear? What were the odds? But as I stood there, watching her, she stopped too. At the exact same moment, she turned her head slightly, looking at something in the trees to her right. I hadn't moved. I hadn't turned my head, but she did. And then she started walking again, disappearing around another bend in the trail. I stood frozen for a full minute, trying to process what I had just seen. Then I did something I immediately regretted. I ran after her. When I rounded that bend, the trail opened into a small clearing with a large boulder in the center. Carved into that boulder were hundreds of names and dates, scratched into the rock. The woman was gone. I walked up to the boulder, running my fingers over the carvings. Some looked fresh, others ancient. All of them were names and dates, ranging from the 1950s to last month. That's when I noticed something that made my legs go weak. Near the bottom, freshly carved, was my name, Jennifer Chun. September 17th, 2023. Today's date. I ran. I don't remember making the decision to run. My body just took over. I sprinted back the way I'd come, branches whipping my face, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would explode. But here's the thing. I couldn't find the trailhead. I ran and ran, passing red X markers, passing the same trees, the same rocks, the same section of creek. And then I saw it again, the clearing with the boulder. I'd look back to the same spot. I tried again, this time keeping careful track of my steps, counting them, marking trees with my knife. It didn't matter. After 20 minutes of hiking downhill, I ended up back at the clearing. The boulder, the names, my name. On my fourth loop, I saw the woman again, the one who looked like me. This time, she was sitting on the boulder waiting. As I got closer, I realized she wasn't just wearing the same clothes as me. She was me. Same face, same hair, same scar on my left hand from a childhood accident. "You can't leave," she said, her voice exactly like mine. "None of us can." "What are you?" I whispered. "I'm you. The you that got stuck here 3 years from now. You've been looping this trail for 3 years, and you'll keep looping it forever. We all do." She gestured to the forest around us, and that's when I saw them. Dozens of hikers, all walking in slow, methodical circles through the trees. Some looked fresh, recent. Others looked wrong, faded, like old photographs. "No," I said, backing away. "No, I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here." That's what we all said. Whatever she was, replied. But I didn't listen. I pulled out my phone, even though there was no signal, and I started recording everything. The boulder, the names, the woman who looked like me, all of it. And then I did something crazy. I ran toward the red X markers. Not away from them, toward them. Every time I saw one, I ran straight at it, off the trail, crashing through the underbrush. I don't know how long I ran. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. But finally, I burst out onto a paved road. A car honked at me, swerving to avoid me. I'd made it out. When I got home, I tried to find that trail again on the app. It wasn't there. I searched through every hiking database, every map, every forum. Devil's Bend Trail doesn't exist. According to every official source, it never did. But I still have the video on my phone. I watch it sometimes, when I need to remind myself it was real. In the video, clear as day, you can see the boulder with all those names carved into it. And right there, near the bottom, my name is still there. Jennifer Chun. September 17th, 2023. But here's what keeps me awake at night. When I zoom in on the video, I can see other dates carved next to my name. September 17th, 2024. September 17th, 2025. September 17th, 2026. One date for every year. And yesterday, I got a notification on my hiking app. A new trail just opened near my area. It's called Devil's Bend Trail. These were 3 true stories from people who went for a simple walk or jog and encountered something that changed them forever. If you have a story you'd like to share, leave it in the comments below. Stay safe out there, and remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't hiding in the dark. They're walking right beside you.